Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Blame It on the Stars. We spill all the tea on what's going on in the universe so you can blame your problems on the stars. It is Jade here.
And it's Kara.
And this week, it is Libra season. It is the fall equinox, and we are going to explain everything you need to know about Libra season so you know kind of what you're getting into up front. But in case you missed it, last week we did a nice little episode that was educational, all about understanding retrograde planets. In case you also did not know, Mercury is currently retrograde. Hence why we thought it was appropriate to do a little educational special. And if you missed it last week, I would definitely also recommend checking it out as well.
And then just to give you a heads up, next week we will be going more in depth into Venus and its home sign of Libra. So definitely come and listen. It's going to be a pretty good transit. There will be one aspect that's worth noting, but again, don't worry about it. Just listen next week.
Yeah, and just to give you a heads up before we dive into the Libra season rundown, the following transits will happen this week. The Sun entering Libra, Mercury retrograde into Virgo, and the new moon in Libra. So we'll explain all of these things in depth now, and everything else will happen in the following weeks. We'll still talk about it so you know what you're getting into in advance, but we will detail those in further episodes to come, such as Venus in Libra, the full moon in Aries, a few planets stationed direct. We're getting out of all of these crazy retrogrades. And yeah, you'll hear what's in store after a short ad break. So Libra season begins on the 22nd of September at 9:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Per usual, the date and time are from the website astroseek.com. What you need to know about this is once the sun enters Libra, you can expect to be prioritizing balance and finding, equilibrium in your life. This could mean in your relationships, whether that be with your friends, family, coworkers, just having an overall sense of balance, work-life balance, etc., as well as a few other things such as prioritizing fairness, justice, and also exploring your creativity.
Yeah, so something that's really important to know about this that's kind of unique is that as the sun enters Libra, like the day after, it will be conjunct Mercury. Don't worry, we will go into more details in a second on that. But it's good to know that you will have that conjunction, and then Mercury retrograde will leave and go into Virgo. And in some ways that will be more positive in the sense that the sun representing us, the way that we're doing things and expressing ourselves, will get to be in the sign of Libra, as Jay was just saying, that deals with art and self-expression and creativity and just really getting to enjoy that moment without the mess of Mercury retrograde. So that's good news, especially too because for the first part of the Mercury retrograde we were really reflecting on all of the things dealing with Libra, and now we can enjoy it in a different way. Now that we've had the chance to reflect and process, now we can just be proud of the things that we are trying to change, find balance in, again, express. All of that should be a little bit more on track. Keep in mind, though, there is Mercury retrograde, so communication, different story. But in terms of just the sun in Libra, it does get to enjoy its time there without the Mercury retrograde being too much in the way.
Yeah, so that day that Kara was talking about where the sun is conjunct retrograde Mercury happens on September 23rd. So just keep that in mind. But some other key dates that you're going to want to pay attention to will be September 26th when the sun opposes Jupiter retrograde. On this day, it's just very important to remember that when, Jupiter's making oppositions, we might overdo things, and sometimes we see some carelessness that might come from overconfidence. So just be mindful of that on the 26th.
Yeah, a little while after that, on October 11th, we will have the sun trine Saturn, and we know that Saturn's a little bit more of a serious planet, but keep in mind that trines are a positive aspect. So this is going to be a really good time to do anything that requires a lot of hard work, dedication, things that are going to take a long time. It also can be like starting to take yourself seriously, or just taking on some new commitments and maturing, growing up. Those types of themes will come up for you on that day.
Yeah, and then on October 19th, the sun will be square Pluto. This is a little bit of a more challenging aspect. You might find that you're coming into power struggles, or you might similarly find that there's a part of you that maybe needs to change and grow, and it can be hard to move forward in that growth process. So if you find that there's some uncomfortable tension in the air on October 19th, it's Sun square Pluto.
Yeah, and then don't be afraid to treat yourself, because on October 22nd, a few days later, the sun will be conjunct Venus. So this is a really good time to just celebrate who you are. Again, be expressive, be yourself, connect with others. It's a very positive energy.
Now, for something that's not as positive, on September 23rd at 8:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so just a few hours after Libra season begins, Mercury will retrograde into the sign of Virgo. So what you need to know about this is that we're going to be going from the Mercury retrograde in Libra that we're currently experiencing, where we're revisiting balance and harmony in our life, into revising our plans, getting reorganized, doing the revisions, fine-tuning little things. Since Mercury will be back in a Mercury-ruled sign of Virgo, this can be a time where, that the classic Mercury retrograde things just come back. But don't you worry, it's only happening for a little bit after, and you'll hear when it ends soon.
Yeah, Virgo is really attuned to the small details of things, but in some ways that can be really beneficial, because it allows you to look deeper into everything going on and hopefully find solutions or different methods. I know that sometimes too, when we think about Virgo energy, it's very like routine oriented, doing things the same way. Sometimes we think that we have to do things one way, and then we forget that there's other methods. So if you are someone who has a planner on your desk that you don't use, maybe a physical planner is not right for you, or that planner is not right for you. Maybe you need to try digital planning or one of those to-do list notebooks. I don't know, but the Mercury retrograde in Virgo will really help you, again, use that critical eye and think about why things aren't working, or how, maybe they are working, but how you could improve it, even if it's just like by a small percent, making it a little bit better, a little bit smoother, a little bit more efficient.
Now, Mercury's only in Virgo, both retrograde and direct, for a short period of time, but some key dates to know for Mercury retrograde in Virgo are September 26th. Mercury retrograde will be conjunct Venus. This might be a day where you're really reflecting on all the relationships in your life and, what you think about them, how you feel about them, etc.
And this is really going to intensify a lot of the Mercury retrograde and Virgo energy. Pluto, as you probably know, is a very healing and also like determined energy as well. So if you are reflecting and evaluating with Pluto there's a lot of possibility for you to really dive deep and get to like the root cause of whatever is going on. And it doesn't have to be that serious or that intense, but for some people it could be.
And then on September 25th at 5:54 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the new moon in Libra. So how this affects you is you'll be setting all your intentions around bringing balance back into your life. If you're someone who is struggling to balance maybe work and family and friends and maybe possibly even school or other commitments in your life, the new moon in Libra is a really good time to sit down with yourself and figure out, how am I going to make this all happen and bring a sense of balance back into your life. But also similarly to, since Libra is ruled by the planet Venus, which deals with how we relate to others, and Libra is all about fairness, this can be also a good time to set some intentions around finding relationships in your life, whether that be friendships, coworkers, roommates, etc. Finding people that treat you fairly.
Yeah, and in case you're wondering like how this plays out in real life, because you're probably like, okay, Libra season, lots of finding balance that just never ends. The retrograde part is more like thinking about it or like having the realizations or just like the experience of things being out of balance. And then that new moon in Libra would be the perfect time to start implementing or making changes based on whatever those realizations, things that a balance were. So it is a theme, but also know that like everything in life, it's a process and it's going to take time to figure it out. And like we were talking about, even with some of the Virgo energy, like it's constantly revising and trying new things. But hopefully, around that new moon in Libra, things would be a little bit more organized or structured or closer to finding some type of like resolution, long term solution, that type of thing.
Something you might not know is this new moon is happening at 2 degrees Libra. So find where that is in your chart, and then that'll give you some more explanation onto how this new moon is affecting you on a more personal level. But let's discuss some of the details that go on behind the scenes of this new moon, because it's loaded with quite a bunch of aspects. The first two being that the sun and moon are conjunct Mercury and Venus. So we like that in terms of like Venus being here. Again, the whole thing about setting intentions around having fair, healthy relationships is being emphasized at this time. Are your friends supportive? Are they not supportive? Do you have good relationships with your coworkers? All of these things you're thinking about during this time, and it's just being amplified with this Venus energy. And then also too, since Mercury is here in the mix and it's still retrograde, we're also doing that reflective energy, which is what Kara was just mentioning, where we're reflecting but also taking action on what we're reflecting on.
In addition to all of that, we also have the new moon opposite Jupiter or Neptune. And, oppositions are that push-pull energy dynamic. It can be very revealing because having the two opposites creates a lot of contrast.
And lastly, the new moon also has a trine to Pluto. So if you find that your emotions are a little strong at this time, that's, to be expected. But the good thing is this is a positive aspect to Pluto. So there's a really good opportunity to do some healing and, growing with this new moon. So the following transits that we're about to discuss happen in later weeks to come, and they'll all have their own episode. So we'll give you a little bit of what you need to know now. So again, you know what you're getting into in advance, but you can expect, full episodes with the whole rundown on all of these transits moving forward. The first one being on September 29th at 3:49 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Venus enters Libra. What you can expect is an emphasis on enjoying art, wanting to be more social, enjoying aesthetic things. So if you find that you're shopping more during Venus in Libra, that is to be expected. But overall, you're just enjoying being in the company of others during Venus in Libra.
Yeah, Libra is an air sign. So keep that in mind, that you might just be feeling really social and like you want to talk and have conversations around this time. I would definitely lean into that energy because Venus in Libra is the perfect time to get to know other people and just be having all sorts of different conversations and also to explore new things and other interests as well.
Yeah, there will be some challenges to it, but we'll talk about that next week in the whole episode we do on Venus in Libra. Now, the next thing that happens during Libra season is one we've all been waiting for. October 2nd at 5:07 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mercury Retrograde is over. Mercury will station direct in the sign of Virgo. What you need to know about this, obviously, that Mercury retrograde ends on October 2nd, and who doesn't want that? But it's back to getting into that planning and organizing mentality. Know that Mercury is only in Virgo direct for a short period of time, so you'll have that organized, rational energy for like just a short period of time.
Yeah, and just a little reminder, if you didn't listen to our Mercury retrograde episode and you still want to. 10 out of 10 recommend, because after Mercury stations direct, there is a little bit of a post shadow time when things are kind of coming together. Again, more details on that in the previous episode, but did want to mention it.
Now, continuing on ending retrogrades, on October 8th at 5:55 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Pluto retrograde ends as Pluto stations direct in Capricorn. Now, since Pluto is an outer planet and it's the furthest away, you probably won't feel this one as much, but you'll notice it in society. So something you should know is that things with the government or the workforce or authority in general, things are going to get back on track. We can start to see some progress moving forward again.
Yeah, Pluto has been retrograde for a while. Again, if you listened to last week's episode, then you already know this, but Pluto's been in the sign of Capricorn for a minute. We've had a lot of retrogrades there because it happens. Pop quiz, how many months? If you listened, Pluto's retrograde for about 6 months of the year. It goes retrograde once a year. So it's, a common occurrence. It is still important, though, to kind of figure out what it means for you, where it is in your chart and all of that, because again, outer planet transits last for a longer period of time. But with that in mind, it is a little bit more subtle and something that takes time to kind of fully understand the whole story, the whole cycle, what it means for you.
Now, the next thing that happens during Libra season is on October 9th at 4:54 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the full moon in Aries. Since full moons are times of releasing, how this will affect you is you'll be releasing being overly individualistic, right? If Aries is the self and it's more independent and Libra likes to be around others, we gotta sometimes not be so hyper individualistic and rely on the company of others or enjoy the company of others.
The whole balance between the self and others is what the Libra and Aries axis is all about. So yes, it is important to be independent and to be able to do things on your own, but it's also important to know when to ask for help and when you need support from others. That's a natural human thing. So again, finding balance between the two and finding ways to be okay with expressing the fact that you need help or you need advice or you need a hug, because sometimes we just want to keep it to ourselves. So those kinds of themes will come up.
Now on October 10th at 7:51 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mercury will enter Libra again. It was in Libra previously, then it stationed retrograde in Libra. Now it's back in Libra and it's here to stay in Libra until it enters Scorpio. What this means for you is you're getting back into seeing things from both sides. You are getting back to weighing out the pros and cons and having a more objective thinking process. But also, too, you're back to wanting what's fair and what's right. We talked about Mercury and Libra in the past, so this isn't that unfamiliar, but it's back and it's here to stay.
Yeah, and this is also when we actually get to enjoy the Mercury and Libra vibes, because we don't have the confusing retrograde things happening. We get to just really have the moment where we're thinking about all of those things, but we're also thinking about them in a way that is clear.
Speaking of retrogrades ending, on October 23rd at 12:07 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturn retrograde ends as Saturn stations direct in Aquarius. Why you should care about this is we're back again on track. Progress is being made again, whether that is affecting humanitarian causes or in the technology space. But also, too, you might find this can be a good time where you're planning for the future again, or you're getting back into some discipline if you've been lacking a little bit of discipline. So again, too, Saturn's more of an outer planet. You might not feel this one too personally, but you'll definitely notice it in society.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep on your radar, because if you've been here since the beginning of this year, then you definitely remember all the conversations we had about the Mercury retrogrades and how that's going to change the way that we communicate and use social media and technology and a lot of that. And because Aquarius deals with similar ideas, the Saturn retrograde, and now that Saturn is stationing direct, a lot of those themes are going to continue.
Now, it's important to know that also October 23rd is the day that Scorpio season begins, but Saturn stationed direct in Aquarius, as well as the next transit, do happen before the sun actually makes its way into Scorpio. They happen earlier in the day. So in case you're like, why are we talking about this now during Libra season? It's because those planets change direction. They enter new signs at the time that it is still Libra season. So this is like the moment right before Scorpio season, these two things, Saturn stationed direct in Aquarius, and the next thing, Venus entering Scorpio. Venus enters Scorpio on October 23rd at 3:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just a few hours before the sun will enter Scorpio. And since that's a little bit further away, and we'll talk more about it as we get closer, what you need to just know now up front is this is a time where you're valuing privacy in your life. You want to be really close to people. It's not a time where we're looking for surface level moments.
It is worth mentioning that every season starts at a different time every single year, and it's based on the exact moment when the sun changes signs. I know that that's a common mistake or misunderstanding for people who are new to astrology, because everything online for the most part will say like the 20th to the 20th or the 21st to the 21st of every single year, but that's not true.
Yeah, and if you are following us on TikTok, then you might know that already. So here's your reminder. If you want to stay in the loop with us as we share content about astrology, the transits, etc., then make sure you're also following us on social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at BLME The Stars. And also we're on YouTube, Blame It on the Stars podcast, posting YouTube shorts as well as this podcast. And we would love it if you subscribe to us there. We'll see you all next Monday. Bye.